Solutions Review presents Inside Jam, the home for the human conversation.
Hello and welcome back to the 7th annual Insight Jam Live. My name is Jonathan Paula. I'm the Director of Multimedia and Events here at Solutions Review. Very excited and honored to welcome in our next group of panelists as they discuss the future of work starts in class, the emerging learn-work continuum. Jerry, John, Jonathan, Michael, Paul, and Tiffany, thank you so very much for joining me. It is a pleasure to welcome you inside the Inside Jam for today's discussion. Jerry, you've agreed to moderate, so I'm going to let you kick things off with some introductions. Tell the audience a bit about yourself, 30 seconds or less.
Yeah, Jerry Almondar is recently retired superintendent, founder of Creators Futures Collaborative, and I'm grateful to be here to join this conversation about the future of work.
Excellent. Thank you for being here. John, over to you next.
Hi, I'm Dr. John Leto. I'm an educational psychologist, founder of Myed Master, a tutoring company, and Medi Technology, an AI company that does health and education software.
John, thank you for being here. Appreciate your time today. Next, let's head over to Jonathan. Welcome.
Hey, excited to be here. I'm Jonathan. I'm the co-founder and CEO of DataCamp. It's an online platform focused on data, AI, and technology skills. We help millions of learners and thousands of organizations kind of upskill and reskill when it comes to data and AI.
Welcome to the show. Glad you're here with us. Michael, welcome.
Glad to be here. My name is Michael Crawford. I am VP of Strategic Initiatives at America Succeeds. America Succeeds is a national nonprofit focused at the intersection of education and employment, and we lead work around durable skills.
Thank you, Michael. Glad to have you here. Paul, you're up next. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Paul Carney here, founder of Ishtot Incorporated, and it's an AI learning community right now. I started as a high school math teacher, three-time tech entrepreneur when the web came along, and now looking at how I can help people learn what this AI initiative is going to do to all of us for the future of work.
Welcome to the show. Tiffany, last but not least, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me. And Paul must be my career soulmate because I was a former middle school math teacher as well. So I am the Director of Services Enablement and QRM at Optiv. My teams design, develop, and deploy enablement programs for services teams. We have a little over 1,200 individuals globally, as well as run security awareness programs for Optiv clients. Optiv is a global security and solutions provider for our clients. We help them manage risk and operationalize their business outcomes, many of which are pursuing AI at this time. And we deliver that cybersecurity expertise over product, strategy, and services.
Excellent. Well, welcome one and all again. I'm glad to have you here. But since I'm not qualified to lead this discussion myself, I'm going to step out of the way and let Jerry take things from here. Good luck.
Yeah, thank you. When we look across districts and industries, we see the same pattern. AI is rewriting workflows and flattening pathways. Learning happens everywhere. Workplaces are becoming learning environments, and schools are becoming innovation labs. The question that I have for you is, how is AI collapsing traditional walls between education and employment?
I think the traditional model has been, you go to school, you learn your skills, and then you get a job, and maybe you upgrade. Years ago, I had an opportunity to study what makes somebody an expert. And what's interesting is 201, all the experts told me, we didn't learn this in school. And so I've really devoted my whole career to what can we do with kids to help them learn the kinds of skills that they need to be experts. So one of the things we had to do is change how do we assess kids, because the focus has been on, do you get the right answer? So for our two math teacher, alumni here, you probably know this as well. Do the problem, show all work. We try to correct the procedure, get you to the right answer. But real life doesn't work that way. It's much more hands-on. It's much more real-world problem solving. And one way AI can help with that is by creating like realistic simulation environments. So for example, in my earlier career, we did medical AI simulations. So you could actually train to be a doctor, even though you're a student, where you could train to be a scientist by doing like experimental labs where the AI is watching you and giving you the feedback you need as if you had a real mentor. So teaching you those very same those same expert skills that you would need for your job.
Now, I have a follow-up question. Are you finding this uniquely at the grade levels? So mainly at the secondary level or the middle schooler or the elementary level? Where are you seeing this happen most?
So this is great because in my research, we find that kids at different grade levels are different places along the continuum for expertise, and they have different types of knowledge. So a high school kid is really ready to understand the deep, like, why is this so? But a younger kid, like in elementary school, isn't. So you focus more on the procedures, like the hands-on. Let's just get you through what the real-world person does. But then as they progress, you sort of teach them, like, why does it work that way? Because then they're in a position to become innovators and creators, just as what professionals do. They don't just do, they drive the field forward. Maybe young kids aren't ready for that, but the high school kids sure are.
Yeah. Great. Thank you for sharing. Any other responses to question number 1?
Yeah, I'm happy to go next, and maybe to go from kind of the K through 12 perspective to the continuing education perspective. I think AI is changing fundamentally the speed at which people have to adopt new skills, and that's true at various levels. There's AI fluency and AI skills themselves, which are essential now for a lot of jobs and which are still evolving very fast. And then second of all, you have AI transforming the skills required for almost every knowledge worker in the world. And so not only do you need to acquire skills faster, the shelf life of the skills you acquire is also lower. So there's just a much higher need for continuing education. And so I think the fact that AI itself is also going to help us deliver that continuing education at a better, faster, more personalized level is great, because you kind of have that effect in both ways. Like, you have to acquire more skills faster, but then there's also technology that will help you do it in a more effective and more engaging way. So that would be the continuing education perspective on the question.
Great. Go ahead.
I would love to jump in as well. So just for a little context, so part of our work in durable skills has been the result of analyzing over 80 million job descriptions, really trying to understand what it is that employers are looking for. And you've heard them called soft skills and 21st century skills. We landed on durable skills based on some employer feedback. And what AI is doing is a few things. One, it is what Jonathan mentioned, which is identifying the gap in skills and not technical skills. But what are these underlying human durable skills that are going to be necessary and required regardless of how the employment world, how the future of work begins to shift and change? So AI is shining a light. And to John's point, we have partnered with a few folks, but in specificity, a partner called Nemo, who creates these voice-based simulations. And so what we're able to do both within the K-12 space and in higher ed and in the employment space is create incredibly dynamic simulations that are able to analyze and assess the extent to which someone has durable skills. So it could be something like a nursing simulation where you are challenged to share with a patient's child that they need to go into hospice. And so you interact with this simulation, and the AI then is able to analyze the extent to which you are deploying high quality listening skills or communication skills or empathy, things that ultimately in a nursing context are going to matter. But the baseline of it are these durable skills. And similarly in K-12, we have used AI to help better understand the extent to which projects and the experiences young people are having are developing durable skills. So young people are able to share about their experiences, talk about projects, and then the AI is able to distill that qualitative information into quantitative information that makes it much more actionable as a result. So AI is really kind of helping on both sides of this, sort of bridge between employment and education in different and really cool ways.
It's incredible at the speed of all of this happening and how it's reaching students at younger and younger ages. So fascinating. I've seen firsthand students using AI to co-create, problem solve, work in teams. This is no longer a hypothetical situation. It's actually happening in our classrooms right now. The question is, what would it look like if every classroom mirrored the collaboration dynamics of a modern workplace? What does that look like? Tiffany, you want to take that one?
I absolutely would love to. I think when we look at what K-12, how it's currently structured, we're looking at silos of math class, science class, language arts, where when we look at the modern workforce and what organizations are doing, they are so cross-collaborative. They also have different roles on a team. And I think back to, projects and group-based learning that I would do as an educator. They were all the same level of team members working on the same project, having the same responsibilities. That's not at all what it is in the modern workforce. We all play a role. And so I think having a pod structured, role-based project teams, project-based learning would really start to mirror what we see in the modern workforce. And AI being one of those teammates that is collaborating with us, not necessarily the answer engine, but learning how to iterate with it and get feedback on what we're working on. So that's what I would say is it would start to look very cross-functional.
Yeah, I'll cover a little bit too. So I think the biggest challenge, whether it's in the schools or in the workplace, is getting people to truly understand what AI is. That it's this fundamental different technology. It's not like a word processor or spreadsheet. It is very different. It interacts with us. It learns from us. I think there's still a lack of trust right now out there because we're told, hey, just keep working with it. It'll understand you. But I think we're still trying to miss that fact of, but how do I trust it? What is it? Understanding it, how to communicate with it. So I think that's going to happen in schools. It needs to happen in schools, needs to happen in the workplace. Tiffany brought up the concept of roles. We all have jobs, we all have roles. Today, the economic value of a role, I was a chief human resource officer for a large bank. My role, my value was my knowledge and experience to do that role. AI is going to rip that apart. And this is where I don't know that even education is going to figure this out yet, because the workplace is not figuring out how this is going to rip apart our roles. It's going to unbundle all of our tasks. Sangeet Paul Chaudhry covers this in his book, Reshuffle. It's going to unbundle everything we know of work today and rebundle it in some different way that we're not even sure of yet. So when we're talking about what skills to develop and upskilling, reskilling, we still don't have an idea yet what this new structure is going to look like. And that's the part we've got to continue to help people understand. What could this look like, or will it look like? And unfortunately, it's not one of those 5-year type things. It's going to happen quickly and leave a lot of people behind, unfortunately. And even those of us that stay up, I've logged 4,300 hours since ChatGPT came out 3 years ago. I log my time so I can see what I'm spending doing. I have a hard time keeping up with it. So I think that's our challenge, is that learning continuum. It's just the speed is accelerating still. It's not just moving fast, it's accelerating. And we've got to figure out how to get people on board.
I'd like to add a comment to amplify what Tiffany was saying, because I really liked her comment very much about the collaboration and the idea that people have different roles. And for a long time, education has kind of been a one-size-fits-all model where everybody's got the same textbook, the same lesson, the same homework, the same test, and everybody's doing the same task. But the collaborative environment not only gives people different roles, but it helps them find their strengths. Like, for example, it wasn't until I got into graduate school where instead of saying, here's a test, read this textbook, here's a lesson, now they said, come up with your own research. And then I had to be in the role of a creator. And then all of a sudden I realized that's actually what I do best. But I didn't know that for the first 23 years of my life. So that's kind of like we could accelerate that, help the young people figure out what do you do best by putting them in situations where their strengths can shine.
I want to pick up on that real quick, John. The notion that allowing for the development of these sorts of strengths finder, for lack of a better term, right? Anytime you're collaborating, you're working human to human, you're getting feedback, you're giving feedback, you're leading, you're being led, you're learning about yourself, you're learning about your interests. And so when there are opportunities to engage in authentic problems or projects that matter beyond just, in school, the sort of poster board presentation, you walk out, you put in the trash can on the way out, the more often young people have opportunities to engage in work that actually matters, or engage with one another in work that actually matters, the more likely they are to generate better work products, develop more relevant skills, build relationships. There's a lot that comes from that sort of collaboration that I think the modern workforce, Paul, to your point about the speed of AI, as AI continues to accelerate, and it's certainly not going to slow down, I think it's those human components that are going to matter most, and collaboration and working with other humans is the best way to do that.
Yeah, and I'll add to Paul's comment as well that I think the clog in the system, based on my experience, has been the adults in the system, being a little hesitant, caution about engaging in these platforms, which in turn gives students the opportunities to explore. And so for the lens that I operate on is how do we inform and train the adults in the system to be able to use these tools to be effective leaders, teachers, learners that open up the floodgates for the students to really engage and have some interaction that's really, really full. But thank you for that. I'm going to move on to question number 3. Every future-ready system depends on networks. Students don't grow alone, and neither do adults. How can peer-to-peer learning models prepare students for constant reinvention on the job?
I think when young people in particular have opportunities to engage with one another in meaningful and authentic projects, work, initiatives, it allows them to develop the kinds of skills that as they move forward and as the workplace begins to shift and change, if they have not had experience to be adaptable, to give and get feedback, to lead others, to influence others, to kind of share both wins and fails, then I think it'll be much more challenging down the line as the future of work continues to shift. The more dynamic that sort of end goal for young people, if you could imagine young people in a school, their future of work is their sort of end destination, for lack of a better term. The more that is dynamic and the more static their school experience becomes, the more of a disconnect and sort of dissonance there is between where they're headed and where they're at. And so in the future, working with peers, whether they're adults, whether they're humans, whether they are technology systems, that ability to learn and grow and fall and get back up and flex muscles and yield and all of those kinds of things emerge when young people work together. When they have that kind of practice earlier on or in their educational journey, they're much more likely to be adaptable as adults. And so I think creating the kinds of conditions where they can have that collaborative opportunity, where they can learn with and from and teach others earlier, the better.
And my question is, why is it so hard? If we know what should be done, why is it such a challenge to actually create opportunities for this to take place? And I'm going to circle back to the adults in the system. In order for students to be engaging in these activities and learning things that don't even exist yet, to have the opportunities to have the adults understand what conversations need to take place in the classroom. It's not even the classroom teacher. It's the entire adults of the entire system. It's the leaders of the organizations, the executive cabinets, really need to begin to understand and engage these platforms so they can open up the door for innovation and experimentation to take place. Any thoughts on that?
I think if we circle back to some of the other topics, like preparing for work and that sort of thing, a lot of educational reform is driven by the workforce coming to the school system and saying, look, you're not preparing the kids well enough for the jobs that we're hiring them to do. And then the education community says, okay, we have to start changing, we'd implement standards and so on. But a lot of the things still say the same, like you're still going to have to learn algebra, geometry, algebra 2, and all of that stuff. We're just going to put some standards behind it. But I think if you go to the adult community and say, what are the skills you really need? Like, on the job, especially since they're changing now from the traditional model, And how do we reimagine our curriculum to build the skills that you say you need your workers to have? So you're our customer now. So it's sort of like almost like a business model. I think that could be very powerful. And I think AI can play a very strong tool, because probably a lot of the teachers may not be prepared to teach those sorts of things. But if you offload like some of the peer tutoring, the collaborative environments, the other things we've talked about, that could make it a lot easier to implement, and then scare people on the education side less, like, oh, we can't do that, so let's go back to our comfort zone. Maybe technology can expand what's possible and therefore expand the comfort zone.
Let me go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'd like to build on that, on what John just said, because I'm actually incredibly optimistic given the moment we're in. Because if you look at history, you had kind of the traditional classroom, the way people spend their time was you would just be silent, and there was a knowledge transfer for the teacher towards the students. I still remember sitting through hours of that, where it's essentially knowledge transfer one way. And I think technology played a role in helping to bring that knowledge transfer online. So the classroom could be used for kind of higher impact stuff. And I think in a classroom setting, there was a shift towards more skill-based learning and some private tutoring, depending on kind of the income level. But what's going to happen now is you're going to have technology create kind of the best AI educator that will become better than any human teacher for that one-on-one skill building, one-on-one tutoring. And so the classroom doesn't have to be used for that anymore, which is going to free up a lot of time then to go towards some of the things that were just discussed around a collaborative learning, peer-to-peer learning, project-based learning. So I'm very excited because now the technology isn't quite there yet, but you can kind of squint and you'll see kind of the early signs of kind of the AI teacher, AI educator emerging. And I think it's a big kind of tipping point that we're on, because it's going to be the first time where technology becomes the better teacher in human history.
What advice would you give adults who say, when they're asked the question, what do you need to prepare for the future of teaching and learning? What advice would you give them when they say, I don't even know where to start because I don't know what the future holds? I don't know what the future skills are. Those jobs don't exist yet. What advice would you give that adult?
I would say start by embracing the technology and the technology changes that are happening right now. Because the reality is nobody knows how AI will impact the jobs of the future, but it will become gradually clear. And I think it will become clear to the people who are embracing the technology earliest. And I know that's hard. Every change is hard, but I do think that's how teachers set themselves up for the most success. So embracing AI as a technology, build also AI educational software and tools and technology that gets created, because that can essentially make them as a teacher so much more effective.
And it's not different in industry. Human resource people are also pretty hesitant against it. I've worked with dozens and dozens of companies that have begun this. And, in fact, the issue with HR people is it's kind of like teachers. They have to know for it themselves and then guide the rest of the organization. Teachers have to know it themselves and then guide the students. So they're very actually similar groups of people. But here's what I do with them. You got to start small, stepping stones. It's one piece at a time. You got to take that first step. That's why I do this prompt a day out there that just gives everyone a prompt. It's different subjects, different topics. Find one that interests you. I mean, it could be a personal, a professional. It doesn't matter. Try it, play with it, get to use it, and then start to go down those stepping stones. So I think we got to do the same thing with educators is try it at the beginning. They start to become dabblers. They dabble with it. And then they don't see any use, because if you don't use AI well, after a while, it starts to become generic. You're like, okay, that was nice. It was novel, but what can it really do for me? I'd say moving from the dabbler to the doer. That's when they got to understand structured prompt design, how to interact with it, how to minimize hallucinations, biases. There's so much process, but you got to just do it little at a time. It's starting with that big process of here's prompt design, here's how to do a list, scares people. you got to get them comfortable with it first. There's got to be a comfort level of confidence and then go to competence. So I think teachers need to just figure out what that start is and get going.
Whether you're a teacher or an industry professional, what would be an example of an entry point if I'm new to the platforms?
I mean, if you don't have a solid one that you use today, ChatGPT is the gold standard. I mean, Gemini is much better today, I think, than anything. Claude has its uses, Perplexity. But just pick ChatGPT, ask it some questions, upload a picture of what you're eating in your meal and say, identify the foods in this. You'll be amazed that it will come back and pretty much identify most of what you got. Start to get excited about it and start using it to plan trips and things, and then start to follow someone who will invite you in to understand the rest of these concepts. It's just, there's so many. Personal is probably the best one to start with, that you can just start to play with it and see it. I've seen it happen over and over. My wife's one of them. She did the same thing. And now she turns to ChatGPT for a lot of questions now. So including how to deal with me at times.
Very good. All right. I'm going to transition to the next question. Lifelong learning only works when every stakeholder takes responsibility. If one group opts out of the whole system fails. Who owns the responsibility for lifelong learning? The employer, the educator, or the individual?
I'm going to take a radical point of view on this. I agree in principle that all three do, but at the end of the day, you have to take responsibility for yourself, because if you start relying on your company to doing it for you or your teacher to teach you all you want, it's not going to happen. So we've been doing a lot of research. Kids are very good at self-directed learning, if you give them the chance to do this. We've been working on something we call a self-assessment technology. So let's say you're trying to teach yourself something, or you're even just learning a lesson in school and you're stuck and you say, I don't get it. And well, what do I do about it? What if you don't have a peer tutor, or your parents can't hire you a regular tutor? What we've found is that you can teach somebody to self-assess his or her own knowledge very reliably in just 10 minutes. And it's super easy to do. You just show them a one-page transcript of what a self-assessment looks like. And then you say, okay, now do this on yourself. And they can do that. But what's even more remarkable is you say to them afterwards, okay, now that you've self-assessed, go back and re-study the material and fill in your own gaps. What we found is we've done this with anywhere from second graders to college kids in math, science, reading, history, foreign language in the US, China, India, and Scotland. And on average, kids improve their performance by 1.5 to 2.5 letter grades after just 10 minutes of training. So this is a tool to empower them to take charge of their own education so they don't have to depend on the system to do it. Now, the other thing, and Jonathan mentioned this a while ago about like using AI to help fill in the gaps and empower people for the one-to-one training. And he made a comment that, AI is not quite as good as a teacher yet. But on the other hand, we've created AI, and we have a published scientific paper that showed that our AI outperformed experienced human teachers by 37% in teaching kids. So the technology is actually there for that too. It's just not widely known yet because we're not widely known. But thanks to this podcast, maybe we will be.
There you go. Tiffany, any thoughts on who owns the responsibility for learning?
Yeah. So I agree with John in the sense that the individual has to own that journey. But in, the modern workforce and in corporations, the company has to provide opportunities that are going to be meaningful to the learners. And then the educators that deliver those opportunities can't squash the what they have in front of them, the opportunity to, reinforce, make it meaningful to that individual So I think it is a shared responsibility between all. But I do agree with John that individual is the one that has to own their own journey.
There's research out there that says employees are using the platforms 3 times more than the organizational leaders. And I think, the clog in the system becomes leadership. And I think it's important for, I'll circle back to my emphasis on the adults or the leaders in the organization really understanding and grasping the value of these, not only for the classroom experience or the department experience, but for the operational experience from a leadership capacity, because how we lead today, our organizations, is completely different of how we led them 5 years ago. And being able to understand the value of these innovations and use them to give ourselves superpowers when it comes to be able to navigate all of the different challenges, the uncertainty that we're having is so critical to the sustainability, not only of our organizations, our communities, but to us as professionals, or else they're going to be better executives than the humans are, just to put John's comment. But any thoughts on that?
Just because leaders are not confident in what AI is, they're not fluent in AI, and many of them won't admit it. I mean, that's why it's happening. They've got to be the first to raise their hand and say, "I don't know what this is. Let's go learn it together." But many aren't willing to do that because it makes them look weak, makes them look like, what's their value then, right? If they don't know how to do something. So I get it's a weird thing we got to get over.
Yeah, Jonathan, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I quickly wanted to react to John because just to be clear, I think AI as an educator and as a teacher is indeed already better than a lot of teachers and probably better than the average teacher. If you, I don't think in many cases it's better than the absolute best teacher in a certain subject, but we can debate about that. Now, Jerry, to react to your point, I think what we're finding if we help organizations with data and AI transformations is that the buy-in from leadership is hugely important. Organizations that are very successful in kind of driving data literacy, AI fluency, tend to have leaders that are very much bought in. Even those leaders, though, and this goes back to kind of some of the points made earlier, they tend to underestimate the bottom of demands and kind of the speed at which kind of rank and file employees are realizing the importance. And then to link that back to your question on like who's responsible, in my opinion, everyone is responsible. And it's a necessity. Like if I'm an individual and I'm lucky, 30% of the skills I have today will be relevant for my job in 5 years. But if I'm unlucky, 100% of my skills will not be relevant in a few years. And so I think at the individual level, it's a necessity. I think at the organizational level, it's a necessity as well. I don't think organizations that don't leverage data and AI will be around for more than a few more years. And then I think for the educational system to be relevant, it needs to truly embrace this, not only to increase the effectiveness of the educational system, but because they're simply going to lose their kind of reason for existence if they don't embrace it.
Yeah, that's I was going to pick up on that. My response is, well, it depends on who we're talking about. It depends on who we're asking the question. It depends on who owns the outcomes. If the employers are not interested in lifelong learning, then they may pay a consequence depending on who they're getting and how they're sourcing, right? Of course, the individual, if they're not interested in lifelong learning, then they're going to have a rougher ride. And I think John and Jonathan, your notes about teaching, I mean, I think depending on what it is that you are, or what it is that aims to be taught, a particular skill or a certain subject matter, I think technology could absolutely kind of outpace where human educators are. I would also just say educators and teachers provide a lot more than just content acquisition and just sort of skill development. There are there are many other elements of a schooling or an educational experience that a human-to-human connection can provide. And so if it's purely skill-based, then maybe AI is there already. Maybe it'll get there soon if it's not already. But there are a lot of other components to that. So just to circle back on the lifelong learning question, I mean, I think, and tying in Paul's note earlier, And actually, tying in Jerry's note also, the idea of sort of starting small and working as an adult to think differently about what it is you are doing, your role, your responsibility. If teachers believe that it's their job to just take content from their experience and kind of pour it into the young folks, that's one way to approach education. But working side by side or serving as a sort of expert facilitator or advisor is a much different approach. And I think, Paul, what you're talking about, testing some of these tools out, testing some of these models out, we all should be probably doing a version of that in our own work, in our own world, regardless of what our role says that we are or our title says that we are. This is not our, parents or grandparents' economy where you can just learn a trade and then you're on your own. This is a much different and dynamic kind of economic system that requires all of us to continue learning and continue growing.
And I agree with a lot of you. I mean, when I think of the definition, when we use the term teacher, we gravitate towards the classroom, the K-12 system, or the university system. And I think every adult in every system, regardless of your education or industry, own that responsibility of being a teacher, whether it's to your staff, to the people you lead, or the people that you are leading you. It's a responsibility to engage and to really do our due diligence to make people aware of how we're using these platforms, how they can be used, what they can be used for. Which brings me to the next question, the fifth question, and it involves a little bit of strategic foresight in there. So the question is, could the learn-work continuum finally make school and career a seamless journey? In other words, the lines are blurred between where education stops and where work starts. So what's your thoughts and reflections on that?
Well, we're trying to do that already at MyEdMaster, the tutoring company that I have. So it's a traditional tutoring company in some respects where kids get academic tutoring or SAT prep. We also give them extracurricular activities. They can do scientific research. They work on products. And a lot of those products come out of the scientific research. And in fact, that's where MediTechnology, my other company, came into play. The research was so successful. The products were so successful. In fact, Jonathan, the software I mentioned about the AI that beat the human teacher came out of that program. So we actually had kids creating this technology, which is kind of cool. But they were making such great progress. I thought, okay, let's turn this into a company. So now the kids are going to school. They're learning with, professional mentors, but they're also building real products. They're not doing the thing. Forgive me for forgetting the one who said, you just throw it in the trash on the way out. And I even use that analogy when I'm talking to parents. I say, look, your kid enters a robotics competition. He builds the robot. He takes it to the competition. The robot gives him a score. Then you bring it home. You take the robot apart. Next year, you build a new robot for another competition. I say, no, with this, what's going to happen here is we're going to build a product and then we're going to put it on the market and we're going to sell it. And your kid works in a team. Your kid gets to develop his or her unique skills. So I say, okay, are you a business person? We have health products. Are you interested in a medical career? Are you interested in a tech career? So we'll assign you to one of those, roles on the team, but you're going to work with a team of complementary people like Tiffany was talking about. Each one has a role, but together we have a unified goal, and we're actually turning out really cool products that, are cutting edge. We actually have a chatbot, just to do a plug, that's outperformed both ChatGPT and Gemini by a lot, and we have published papers that show that. So maybe someday you'll hear about that as well. And maybe this conference will get us famous for that too.
What's interesting is that taking the example.
So I think
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tiffany.
You're okay. Apologies. There's a little bit of a lag on my side.
Yeah. Just taking the example.
No,
go ahead.
Earlier. Okay. Sorry.
It's all you.
Earlier, Michael was talking about the durable skills. And the durable skills are the ones that I think we want to make sure we're not losing sight of in that education continuum. Because in order to be successful in the workplace, having those skills as well as the executive functioning skills. If we don't have those, we're going to see significant issues with whether you have the technical expertise or not. And so I think that would be the bridge that we have to create in order to get over that wall between education and career. But to Michael's point earlier, we're getting tools that will help us do that.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of delay on this system, so bear with us, the audience. But I do want to circle back to a comment John made about the transition from the blurring the lines of the classroom and the workforce. I actually forgot my train of thought right now, so I apologize. I'm gonna dish it off to somebody else so I don't till I remember what I was going to say, but I apologize. Anybody else want to take?
Yeah, I can jump in. So one of the things that we have seen in our work, working at this intersection, is the sort of lack of consistent currency, for lack of a better term, between the education system and the workforce. So currently, you leave high school, you have a high school transcript, maybe you go into higher ed and you have a bachelor's degree. But once you get to the workforce, employers don't necessarily know what a bachelor's degree means or says. Psychology degree from A university, B university, C university. It's tough to know what that individual actually can provide. And so the way that we have been approaching it through a durable skills lens, and again, just for context, durable skills refer to things like communication and collaboration and critical thinking and creativity. What we are working on is helping to bridge that gap between education and workforce and establishing an agreed upon kind of universal standard around these sorts of skills, so that when you leave high school, when you come out of the military, when you have a master's degree, if there's a way to be able to communicate, to signal that, hey, I have done this kind of work, these are the particular skills that I have developed, an employer would be able to then sort of receive that and interpret that and understand that, oh, this person with a bachelor's degree in psychology that has done a range of different projects and has developed these skills, and there's evidence of those skills, compared to this person that has a bachelor's degree in psychology that hasn't done those things. We're able to better communicate and kind of detect more cleanly where and how folks are showing what they know and can do. And so I think as AI begins to make sense of some of these skills, it begins to develop them, it begins to assess and analyze them and support the articulation of these skills. I think it makes it more possible that there is a kind of more seamless journey. As my friend Tom Arnett from the Christensen Institute often writes about, there's challenges with different value networks, and there's other factors that are at play that make certainly the American system a bit tricky. We are not, we have states and we have different micro credentials, and there's a whole host of reasons why this sort of universal, seamless journey might be challenging. That said, I think if we can agree upon what it is that employers are seeking as it relates to durable skills, and we work backwards and can be able to show that, I think that gives us a good chance.
Well, we just had a real-time glitch on why AI is better than the human part, and it doesn't forget like humans do. But I remember what I was going to say. So, John, you brought up the entrepreneurial spirit of students that you engage and work with, and being able to sell their products. The comment that I was going to make is the value of today's environment is it's no longer a regional or national market; it's a global market.
Yeah.
So the opportunities that our students have, and any adult has, whether you're in industry or in education, have the opportunity to have a global reach, which is going to require a different skill set than a local politics or regional politics or national politics and culture. You're going to have this global understanding. And I think that's the value that this opportunity brings. And as adults in the systems, as the teachers, whether you're in education or industry, it's important for us to wrap our head around what does that look like. So just an interesting time that we're in, but it's no longer competition at the local level, it's global.
But it's also a benefit because now you have the world's knowledge. I'm old enough to remember that And this comes back to, I think, Jonathan's comment about knowledge transfer. You walk into a classroom, it's either in the teacher's head, it's in the textbook, or you ride your bike to the local library and get a book there. Now on your phone, your internet, you have the whole world's knowledge, anybody you can touch and talk to. It's utterly fantastic. I tell students it's a fantastic time to be alive because you have infinite opportunity. And we just need to be able to help them get to that, and help it take full advantage of that in any way we can.
Very good. All right. Any other final thoughts on the last question that we have here?
Maybe one more thought on, because I think Michael talked about kind of durable skills, which I totally agree with the perspective there. Maybe to give the kind of technology, data, AI skills perspective here as well. I think the fact that those skills are, and what you need to know, what you need to be able to do, the fact that it's changing so fast actually automatically out of necessity creates a blending of the two worlds, because there are not enough people who have a degree in data science or AI. They're just not there. So automatically, everyone will have kind of on the job skill building, kind of continuing education, skill building that happens. So if I look at what DataCamp is seeing, we develop these programs for individuals, for professionals, for organizations, but then we also offer them to teachers and professors in higher education. And we're seeing thousands of professors use that simply because it's incredibly hard for them to keep up with everything that's going on. So I think the speed at which the tech skills are changing is actually helping the blending of the two worlds, to go back to the question you asked.
Absolutely. As we're coming to an end of our conversation here, what I'd like to do is ask each one of you for some final takeaways. What advice would you give the viewers, and kind of share your reflections on the conversation and what you see happening in the future? We'll start with Tiffany.
Yeah, I think my reflection over this entire conversation, because I mainly deal with the adult learner, and we're talking about some of the hesitancy that they're having in engaging the tools and upskilling themselves before they start upskilling others. I would say just having that vulnerability to be inquisitive and jump in is going to make all the difference. As you start to develop those skills, the peer-to-peer networks we talked about, that human element of being able to listen to others in your industry in similar roles that you have and how they're using AI, I think is incredibly beneficial and can help spur some innovation in your own day-to-day work. And, that goes for the educators. That goes for folks who are wanting to change careers. So they're kind of diving into that lifelong learning component. I think just having that inquisitive nature to try it and then share what you learn is going to help all of us.
Thank you for that. Michael.
Yeah, I have very much appreciated this conversation. I think I would just double down on so many things y'all said, from starting early to being curious to trying some of these technologies to being open to exploration. I think there are lots of adults out there who have not had the sort of pressure that we're feeling today to continue learning and to continue growing and to maybe try some new things. And I think the need for that couldn't be clearer. And it's only, the alarm is only going to continue to get louder and louder. And so I think from an adult perspective, get out there, try some things, meet people, try tools. I think those are going to be the ways that you begin to kind of try your hand at some of these technology developments. I think from a durable skills perspective, we know that these are the skills that last. So long as humans are in the mix, there will be collaboration, there will be communication, there will be listening and feedback and leadership. And so if you're a younger person and you're newer to the workforce, I think really thinking about the extent to which you're getting opportunities to develop these skills are really going to set you on a path that, regardless of how technology unfolds, you'll be better positioned to be able to navigate it effectively.
All right. Thank you for that, Michael. Jonathan?
Yeah, maybe to build on what was just said, I think in this moment, there's a lot of people who feel overwhelmed, who feel like, wow, oh my God, there's so much change and it's very hard to keep up. And so I think it's important kind of we give them step by step a kind of transition path to build the skills. And one thing I wanted to mention, because I think it's so fascinating, is that one of the reasons AI tutors are doing well is because they're judgment-free zones. Like humans still have this fear of being judged by their mentor, by their teacher. And so I'm incredibly optimistic about the technology potential of AI learning engines, AI tutors, not only because they eventually will be better, or they might already be better, depending on the use case, but also because psychologically they're safe. They don't judge the students. And I think there's some research on that, and I think it's incredibly fascinating to see how that plays out.
Thank you. And John?
I think the best takeaway I can think of is you now live in a world where everything's at your fingertips, all the world's knowledge, almost anybody you could ever want to talk to, even AI tools to help you. So think big, think about what are your dreams, what are your goals, and use technology to empower you to get there. If you don't have all the skills, maybe you can reach out to people, you can learn them. Even technology can help, like you use ChatGPT. Hey, get me a literature review on X with citation, or I'm not very good at marketing, so can you just prepare me a pitch deck or a marketing presentation? Now you can achieve just about anything you want. So think of the technology as an opportunity to make you a super person.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I do want to go. I lost my screen with the group on there. Okay, thank you. I want to turn it over to Paul, and then I'll take the last thought. Paul, go ahead.
Sure. Quick. Yeah. So, in my mind, there's two things. One is for educators is stop scaring students, stop telling them they can't use AI. I see so many in the college areas still doing that, and we've got to stop that because students are afraid to use AI. We've got to stop that method. So, and then the second thing, echoing what everyone said here before, and I said it before too, is you got to start somewhere. Start small. Get rid of the noise. There's so much noise out there. Someone the other day said, here's how to use this chatbot for this thing and this chatbot for that. Stop doing that and just actually pick one and just start using it, because that's where you've got to start.
Great advice, Paul. And for me, I would say my biggest takeaway is that it's got to start with the leadership in the organization. And even if you're not at the leadership level, you're leading yourself, and take the responsibility to learn the platforms to start. Like Paul said, pick a platform, start to engage it, find opportunities out there on social media feeds to learn more about the platforms. I started learning about ChatGPT when it first came out, and I discovered it on TikTok. And so that drew me to other platforms where Mighty and other different social media platforms where I started to scroll through the feeds and start to experience other people using it, and started to relate that to how can I use it in my industry. So pick a platform, start learning it, and learn as much as you can about it. You're not late at this game. I mean, everybody is still learning. Don't feel bad if you aren't as advanced as some of your colleagues or other professionals. Start to engage the platform. And I'll close by saying this. This was an amazing conversation. I'm so honored to have facilitated this conversation, but this needs to happen more, where you have industry experts. I obviously bring in the educational lens with my experience of public education, but we need to have more opportunities like this to engage with colleagues from different industries to really wrap our head around the challenges. I can't tell you how comfortable and how good I feel today hearing that you guys are experiencing the same challenges as educators. And I would, you feel like you're far behind in your industry and not realizing until you have conversations like this that you're pretty much where everybody else is. You're not alone. And so some are advanced, some are in the middle, and some are just starting. And I can't tell you how much it makes me feel good to be a part of this conversation and know where we're at. So with that said, I will turn it back over to our team here. And
thank you, Jerry. Yeah, no, and I definitely want to echo what you just said. Part of the reason we do Insight Jam every quarter now is because there is a demand and certainly a need to have these conversations and to bring experts together. And just this week, I'm going to be meeting and talking and emceeing 16 of these panels with 104 experts from around the world. So I couldn't be more honored and thrilled to be part of that experience. Before we go today, though, I'd like to invite each of you an opportunity for some self-promotion, whether you want to plug your book, your podcast, LinkedIn profile, your company solution. The floor is yours, 30 seconds or less, and we'll start with Tiffany.
Hey, if your organization is looking to deploy AI technologies, come check out Optiv. We've got experts, whether it be in finding that technology that best suits your environment or helping you strategize how to roll it out, how to make sure that your end users are using it safely, securely, and improving that AI literacy with your employees. Come check us out. We can help.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Tiffany. Appreciate you being on the show today. Paul, over to you.
Sure. I'll first say, please connect with me or follow me on LinkedIn. I do a lot of stuff on LinkedIn every day. There's a prompt out there. I started this thing called the AI Clutch with a K, because I did a lot of programs, a lot of training, and people would say, what's next? What's next? So I created a friendly, safe online learning community where people can come in, learn prompting techniques. We are launching what we're calling Clutch Quests coming out next month. And those are going to be self-paced, individualized, so you can actually go on your own pace using AI. So, come out and join us on the AI Clutch. We'd love to have you.
Thanks for being on the show. Appreciate it. Michael, where would you like to send the audience today?
Yeah, so we do research. We work with high schools, higher ed institutions, workforce, employers, all around how durable skills are developed, how durable skills can be deployed within your organization. So if you are looking to build professional development offerings, technology platforms, other sorts of tools, and you want a high quality, sort of best in class durable skills framework, then you should check out pathsmith.org and americasucceeds.org. Those are our two brands that lead on durable skills, and we'd love to work with you.
All right. Appreciate that. Jonathan, over to you.
Hey, so if you're looking to build data and AI skills, go to datacamp.com. We help individuals upskill, reskill themselves, and that ranges from basic data literacy, AI fluency, all the way to advanced topics in AI and machine learning. We help organizations transform their workforce with data and AI skills. And then last but not least, if you're a teacher and you are looking to use DataCamp in a classroom setting, we have a DataCamp Classrooms and a DataCamp Donates segment for teachers and nonprofits where we give away the platform for free. So go check it out, datacamp.com.
Excellent. Thank you. Let's go over to John next.
So Myed Master is a tutoring company. We do academic tutoring, SAT, ACT. We also do college counseling, and then our STEM extracurricular activities. So if your child wants to do research and publish, or join our tech entrepreneurship program and help work on real products at Medi Technology, which is a spin-off company. We do health and education products. If your child is going to take the SAT, please go to gameyoursat.com. And if you're interested in living longer and being healthier, myouthspan.com.
All righty. Thank you for that. Jerry, last but not least.
Yes, thank you. So I'm the founder of Creative Futures Collaborative, which is a company that helps educational leaders integrate AI into their workflows, giving them skills that help them navigate the challenges that educational leaders are experiencing in today's environment with all the uncertainty. And so we look forward to hearing. If you want to know more, follow me on LinkedIn, and you can contact me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, one and all. And with that, I would like to thank our panelists one more time and you for your attention. If you'd like to dive deeper into this topic and learn more about enterprise technology, we encourage you to join the always-on conversation at insightjam.com, the home for the human conversation. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Weekly podcasts, panel highlights, expert advice, live programming like this right here and a whole lot more. Over 1 million subscribers and counting. We'd love to count you amongst them. But don't go anywhere, because in just a few short minutes, we'll be back with our next expert keynote as Michael Lubefeld talks about a change leadership framework and a chapter on AI and innovation. You don't want to miss that discussion. But for now, for this group here, thank you very much for watching and listening. My name is John, and we hope to see you for the next one. Bye-bye.
For video highlights, replays, and more, visit insightjam.com.